When someone uses the term Uncle Tom, it is meant to be offensive and derogatory, okay? So when someone left a comment telling me that I was an Uncle Tomisha, they were not trying to compliment me. They were absolutely trying to offend me. Being an Uncle Tom means that you are subservient to white people and that you are a sellout, aka you are willing to sell out your own people, your own black people, for white approval. So who the hell is Uncle Tom, and why is this meaningful with regards to Black American history? To answer that question, we need to go back to 1850. So in 1850, Congress passed the Fugitive Slave Bill. Now, there had already been like a Fugitive Slave Bill already on the books, but a lot of people ignored it. This law really sided with slave owners that if a slave was caught in a free state, if they had run away, that they are required to be returned back to their owner. A person that was caught helping a slave to freedom could be fined up to $1,000, and it was straight up illegal for you to help a person escape to freedom. This is a sign from 1851 that was posted in Boston, basically warning Black people in the area to be aware of people that might kidnap them and bring them back down south, even if they were freed. Like, it was very serious and it was very scary. This is Harriet Beecher Stowe, and she was from Connecticut. She and her family were abolitionists, meaning they were against the institution of slavery. And actually, her family participated in the Underground Railroad. And we know this to be true because a gentleman named John Andrew Jackson actually wrote about staying with Harriet's family in his memoirs. He wrote a book called The Experience of a Slave in South Carolina. Now, he eventually made it to Canada, and when he got to Canada, he helped more people escape to freedom. Harriet was horrified by this bill, and she decided to do something about it. Now, she was a writer, and she thought that she could use her writing talents to sort of tell a story that might be compelling enough to help people understand the atrocities of slavery. Now, she was largely influenced by a narrative that already existed at the time, and that was the story of Josiah Henson. And this story is largely believed to be like the huge influence behind the Uncle Tom character and what really motivated her to write her story. By the way, Harriet was 40 years old when she started writing this book. It's never too late to write earth-shattering literature that changes the world forever. So let's be for real. Most of us have never read this book. I know I haven't, and I was actually told specifically not to read it because it's racist. So spoiler alert, I'm about to spoil a book plot that's damn near 200 years old. So there's a lot going on in the story of Uncle Tom, but we're going to focus on the part that's important for our discussion of the terminology of Uncle Tom. So Tom and another slave are owned by a family that can't really afford to keep them. They're in debt. So they sell Tom, and they plan to sell this female slave, but she runs away. Now, Tom is very passive. He kind of goes along with the flow. He's like, whatever, I'll go with it. Which, again, people had a problem with, of this character being so passive about being a slave. So he ends up being sold to the family of this little girl who like fell off a boat, and he jumps in and saves her, and he befriends her. They're all about Jesus together. They're very Christian. And spoiler alert, she has a terminal illness and dies. He's then sold to a guy who is SAing the female slaves on his plantation. Tom tries to help these women, but he is savagely beaten for it. The two female slaves end up running away from the plantation, and when he is questioned about it, he doesn't give up their whereabouts. Tom ends up being beaten to death by a black overseer because he would not give up the location of the other female slaves who ran away. In the beginning of this video, I told you an Uncle Tom is a derogatory term for a person that is subservient to white people and would sell out his own race for the approval of white people. Does that Uncle Tom character fall into that line of thinking? I'll let you decide that. I absolutely cannot stress to you how popular this book was. It was a huge seller both in this country and overseas. Everybody was reading this book. It actually outsold the Bible. Harriet's attempt in writing this book was she wanted people in the North to be aware of what was truly going on down south on these plantations, because at the time people really didn't know. It's the 1850s. They didn't know what was really going on. She also wanted people down south to feel more empathy towards the people that they were enslaving. Southern white people were big mad about this book. They hated this book because they knew that it cast them in a very negative light. They came out with what were called anti-Tom books, which were stories that were sort of like, hey, slavery's great. Look how great our slaves are. We're so happy to have slaves, and they're happy to be our slaves. Those books were not nearly as popular as the original Uncle Tom's Cabin. During this time, we started to see Uncle Tom's Cabin become a play. So they became minstrel shows. And this is where we get the depiction of the very subservient, step and fetch it Uncle Tom character. They changed the plot of the plays and they made it so that at the end, Uncle Tom actually doesn't die. He ends up forgiving his slave master for beating the shit out of him, and he lives, and everyone's like, yay, we're all friends. Let's celebrate our differences. Like, they do this whole thing. Since more people in the United States had access to seeing the plays than they did reading the book, this is how we get the negative and derogatory connotation of what an Uncle Tom is, because many people never read the book. The more you know.